Happy 2026, everyone! To start our 11th season of In the Kitchen with Mary Mac, we have a very special episode, one of Mary Mac's favorite Julia Child recipes. We've got a ton of exciting stuff planned for this year, so make sure to follow us online, on social media, or on our website. We'll post all updates there. Happy 10th Podiversary!
Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. It's our anniversary.
Woo!
We started this podcast in 2016. I think our first show was January 5th of 2016. And now here it is, January 2026. And it's our 10th anniversary. And we're heading into our 11th season. As usual, when we're starting off a new season, we like to have a really special recipe for you. So I found this really unique, special, and yet reasonably simple, but fabulously delicious with a wonderful presentation recipe. And it is the Clafoutis. It's a cherry flan. And it's a French dish, as you can tell by the name, that is how it is pronounced, Clafoutis, because I have looked this up repeatedly to make sure I didn't ruin it on my anniversary podcast. This recipe probably first came to the United States through Julia Child. It was in her first cookbook, her French cookbook that she published for the American kitchen. And this recipe is, I would say this is like a traditional, classic French recipe. It comes from the Limousin area of France, which is a rural farming area. It's an area where a lot of fruit comes from, cherries, apples, pears. It's what's called, in France, they would call it the countryside. Julia Child refers to this recipe as peasant food, which in that era where she is from, when something is referred to as peasant food, it's basically like what regular people eat. So you can enjoy this delicious dessert too and make it in your own home. Wait, I shouldn't say delicious dessert. This can be a breakfast or brunch food. This can be a dessert. It's a wonderful sort of a custard type of a dish. It has a lot of eggs in it. So if you don't like eggs, I guess you're out on this one. But it's so simple and easy to make that I think at least trying it once is well worthwhile. Traditionally, the Clafoutis is made with cherries because it's that sort of thing, sort of like, in the United States when the strawberries are on, we all want strawberry shortcake, right? I mean, that's what you do with strawberries. Sometimes that's the only thing that anybody ever does with strawberries is make strawberry shortcake. Well, that's with the cherries. When the cherries come on in the Limousin area, everyone makes clafoutis because you've been waiting all year for the cherries to come on. Traditionally, when they would make this in the old days, they would leave the pits in the cherries. And I can't even imagine, because you know how horrible it is to find a pit in a cherry, like when you're eating a cherry pie or something. It's horrible. So I can't even imagine. But I guess if you knew going in, if you knew that all of the cherries had pits in them, when you went to eat something, you could be more prepared for it, But we are not doing that. We are using pitted cherries, and we are using jarred cherries for this. You could use fresh cherries, absolutely. If you have the opportunity to do that, I would definitely recommend it because I think it would be fantastic with fresh cherries. However, it's pretty fantastic with canned cherries. If you've never seen canned cherries in the grocery store, they're usually in the pie filling area, but this isn't pie filling. This is just regular canned cherries that are canned in juice. It says syrup on the jar, but believe me, it's just cherry juice, so it's not like sweetened or anything. It may have a small amount of sugar just as a preservative, but it's not anything like a syrup, okay? And these sometimes are in glass jars and sometimes are in regular cans. I have gotten them at Aldi many times. They usually come into Aldi around Christmas time, like in the fall and around Christmas time. So it probably takes them that long to be harvested and canned and everything. And the ones that you can get in a steel can, I don't know the brand name, but I've used those before and they're very good too.
Is it a particular kind of cherry that they should be looking for? like a tartness level? Obviously not maraschino cherries, but
No.
like, do you want a sour cherry,
Yes.
sweet cherry? What do you want?
You want a dark red sour cherry, or what people sometimes call a black cherry. Now, when they jar these, the type that they jar are sour cherries. So they're not a maraschino. They are a sour cherry and they're in cherry juice. So that's what you're looking for, canned cherries, okay? So here is the recipe. This makes one either like a 10-inch square clafoutis, or you can use a 9 or 10-inch round pie plate if it's deep, okay? Because this will poof up. So that's what you would need for your pan. You also need, for this recipe, a blender. You need a blender for this recipe. And I had to laugh because there was a time period when Julia Child first started becoming popular in the United States where whatever the latest tool was, she used it in her kitchen. So blender, food processor, whatever. So you get some shows like that where she'll demonstrate using the newest, whatever the accessory for your kitchen is. So this recipe, she recommends using a blender with it because you're mixing up a sort of a pancake batter and the blender whips it up really nicely. If you don't have a blender, you can use a food processor or you can use beaters and a bowl, just like any other sort of a batter. So here we go for your clafoutis. You need your baking dish, either a glass dish or a pottery dish. It can be square or round, but it needs to be like 2 inches deep. And it should be like a 9-inch square or a 9-inch pie dish or even a 10-inch pie dish, okay? 1.5 pound jar of pitted sour cherries in syrup or juice, and that's a 24-ounce jar. If you use cans, the cans, I believe, are 15 to 20 ounce, and that would probably be enough cherries, 1 can, because you're not going to use all the cherries in your jar. 1 1/4 cup of whole milk, 2/3 cup of granulated sugar divided, 3 large eggs, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, and 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. You don't want to scoop it up into the cup. What you want to do is measure it by taking a spoon and scooping flour out of your flour container and putting it into the cup and then scraping off the top. Okay, so you don't want it compacted. 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour. You need powdered sugar for serving. So preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now, using a deep 8 or 9-inch square or 9-inch round pie dish, butter the bottom and sides and set that aside. Now, in your blender, you're going to first take 1/3 cup of sugar and mix that in with your flour so that it's well mixed, okay? You can mix your salt in with that too. And then that way it blends in better with the mixture when you put it in the blender. So into your blender, put the milk, the 1/3 cup of sugar, the eggs, the vanilla, the salt, and the flour. Cover and blend on high for 1 minute. And like what I do on my blender is I run it up and down, like, I'll hit a couple of different settings just to make sure that there's not a clump in there somewhere. Okay, now that you've mixed your batter, you're going to take your baking dish and put 1/4 inch of the batter into your baking dish and set that in your oven for 5 minutes so that a thin film will settle on the bottom of the dish, and that's going to support your cherries when you put them in and keep them from going clear to the bottom. So put your dish in the oven with a 1/4 inch deep layer of batter in it, and you're going to let that cook for 5 minutes. Carefully take the dish out of the oven and set it on a heat-proof surface. Now, very carefully, put the cherries evenly on the batter. I use a spoon and I take a few at a time and I try to space them really evenly. And you want to cover the whole surface of the batter with cherries. This takes about 2 to 2.5 cups of cherries. So just kind of get as many as you can fit. You want them in a single layer though, so you don't want them stacked up, okay? And you want them, they can be touching. Touching is fine, but you don't want them on top of each other. Now, after you get your cherries in there, you want to sprinkle the tops of your cherries with the other third cup of sugar that you reserved. Now, very carefully, pour the rest of the batter into your baking dish over the cherries, and then once you get it all in there, smooth it with the back of a spoon so you can make sure that the batter is over all of the cherries. Now you want to place it in the middle of the oven. So like your rack should be, I should have said that when you preheat. You want your rack in the middle of the oven. Place your baking dish on the rack that's in the middle of the oven in about the middle of the rack. And you're going to bake this for about 1 hour. So keep an eye on it. When it's nice and puffed up and brown, you can insert a knife into the middle or a wire pick, whatever you have for testing, and make sure it comes out clean. Then when you take it out of the oven, very carefully take it out of the oven, and you can set it on a cooling rack and let it cool so it's just nice and warm. Sprinkle it with powdered sugar and serve that warm, and it is absolutely heavenly. It also looks nice. I mean, it's a pretty little piece of pie, and it's delicious, and it's so different that I think if you made this for a brunch, people would be so impressed. It can go either in the round version where it's like a slice of pie or the square version. It looks nice either way. I've done both of those. It looks nice either way, and it serves nice either way. So definitely this is a recipe that you're going to want to try. This would be a fun one just to even do for yourself because it also keeps really nice. You can refrigerate leftovers and reheat for a few seconds in the microwave, and it's still delicious. So this is a very nice recipe to try, and I hope you give it a try.
And make sure to check us out online on social media at Mary Mac Bakehouse and on our website, marymacbakehouse.com.
Thanks a lot for listening for all these years if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.